I said I'd abide by the jury decision, and I will do that, and I will not pardon him. The President of the United States in Italy on the 13th of June, 2024, 2 days after a federal jury convicted his son. 5 months and 18 days later, he signed a pardon, before his son had been sentenced in either case. On the 11th of June, 2024, a federal jury in Delaware returned a verdict on 3 counts. The foregoing constitutes the unanimous verdict of the jury. Guilty on all 3. 2 are about a form. The 3rd is possession of the firearm itself. 3 months later in California, on the morning his tax trial was to begin, he was sworn, questioned by the court, and pleaded guilty to all 9 counts. 3 of those 9 are felonies. 6 are misdemeanors, worth counting precisely. 6 felonies in total. A jury found 3. He admitted the other 3 himself. On the 1st of December, the president signed 1 page. For those offenses against the United States which he has committed or may have committed or taken part in during the period from January 1st, 2014 through December 1st, 2024, including but not limited to all offenses charged or prosecuted by special counsel David C. Weiss. Look at the structure because it is easy to get backwards. The 2 court cases are not what is being pardoned. They are examples. The words are included but not limited to. What is being pardoned is the decade. So is that normal? You'll be told that it is, and you will be told to look at the words. That this is standard language, used for a century, nothing to see. The words really are old. Woodrow Wilson used them in 1914. A full and unconditional pardon for all offenses against the United States, which he, the said George Burdick, has committed or may have committed or taken part in connection with the securing, writing about, or assisting in the publication of the information. Read the end of it. In connection with. Wilson pardoned a man in connection with one affair. There is no date range in it at all. 60 years later, Gerald Ford's lawyer took that sentence, deleted the part that said what it was for, and put a period of time in its place, which he, Richard Nixon, has committed or may have committed or taken part in during the period from January 20th, 1969 through August 9th, 1974. Ford's dates are the day Nixon was sworn in and the day he resigned. The window is cut exactly to the man. So the words were borrowed, and the sentence they came from is sitting in a Supreme Court case from 1915. We looked at every pardon the Justice Department has published a name for. Here is what is not in there. The nearest anyone came is a half-brother and a daughter's father-in-law, both for named offenses, both long after the sentence was served. Be precise. Those lists run from 1969. So never in that record, and no historian has produced an earlier one. There is a second thing missing. Every other pardon in this story carries a limit to a presidency, a job, a subject, or the word non-violent. This one carries no qualifier of any kind. Not a role, not a subject, not even non-violent. And the part with no analog at all. No charging decision has been made when Ford signed. That pardon looked only forwards. This one looks both ways. It takes a verdict and a guilty plea off the table before either sentencing and forecloses 10 years no court will ever rule on. It was lawful. A president may do this. That is the point. It was available to every president who ever held the office, and this is the first one who used it on his own son. Which is worth stopping on because nobody has ever had to rule on it. The Constitution does not answer that. It grants the power in a single sentence and carves out exactly one exception: cases of impeachment, and no others. So until the 1st of December, the only thing that had ever stopped this was that no president had done it. So what is inside those 10 years? The document does not say. It never has to. But some of it is not in dispute at all. In April 2014, Hunter Biden joined the board of Burisma Holdings, a Ukrainian gas company. He stayed 5 years. He was paid about $1 million a year, reduced to about $500,000 in 2017. Under oath, he put it in his own words: about $65,000 per month over 5 years. And the strongest fact here is inside Burisma's own announcement. They listed his credentials at length: law degree, board seats, public service. Not one of them was in oil, gas, or energy. 20 days before that announcement, his father stood in front of the Ukrainian parliament in Kiev and spoke about corruption and energy security. He was the administration's lead on Ukraine. Now hold on, because this is where most coverage stops being journalism. Nobody has ever found that the seat bought anything. No bribery charge, no foreign agent charge, no corruption charge, not against him, not against his father. And no charging document in either case ever called that money anything but income. We are not telling you it was corrupt. We are telling you it is inside the decade, and the document that covers the decade does not mention it. Now, the part everybody argues about and the fact that gets left out of the argument. In 2018, out of office, Joe Biden described what he had done in Ukraine. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I looked at them and said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor is not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch, he got fired. A vice president conditioning $1 billion of American loan guarantees on a country firing its chief prosecutor. He's not accused of it. He is telling the story himself. And here is what the argument leaves out. The threat was December 2015. His son was on the payroll of a Ukrainian gas company that entire time. Not before it, not after it, during it, at up to $1 million a year. And the prosecutor he wanted gone had a file on the man who owned the company paying him. Not on Hunter Biden. He was never a subject or a target. And we are not going to tell you who he was. How active that file was in December 2015 is genuinely disputed, and we are not going to pretend otherwise. So the question does not need an accusation attached to it. It is not a question about Ukraine. Nobody with the power to decide that has ever answered it. No court, no special counsel, no inspector general. A congressional inquiry spent a year on it and recommended nothing. Two things, because you will be shown that tape edited both ways. He never says the prosecutor's name and never says Burisma or his son. The connection is made out of the dates, including by us just now. And 6 hours is his own flourish. The dismissal came 3 months later. Neither of those changes the dates. The dates are the point. One more thing gets reported backwards and it matters most. The prosecutor who charged Hunter Biden was nominated by Donald Trump. The investigation opened under the Trump administration. And every charge, the trial, the conviction, and the guilty plea happened under his father. Merrick Garland, appointed by Joe Biden, made that prosecutor a special counsel in August 2023 and was Attorney General for all of it. A federal judge put it plainly in a footnote. Was appointed by and reports to defendant's father. And Hunter Biden does not dispute this. He defends it. He didn't direct the Department of Justice to do one thing or another. So what was the pardon for? His answer is that the danger was the next Justice Department, not the one that convicted him. That is his claim, and this film is not going to report it as though it were a finding. Nobody has established that the prosecution he feared would have come, or that it would have been improper if it had. And notice what the argument actually is. A Justice Department can be pointed at a political enemy. And that is the same argument his father made in writing about the prosecutors who charged his son. And the same one made in both directions about the Attorney General named in this film. A pardon does not settle which version is true. It just removes the case. That is the record, and none of it is contested, which leaves what this film came to ask. Not whether he loved his son, not whether the prosecution was fair, whether the office should contain a power that lets one man close 10 years of another man's exposure, name no crime, and answer to nobody. Because 7 weeks later, he used it again. 4 more pardons in one day. A general, a doctor, a congressional committee, and 5 of his own relatives. None of them charged with anything. And the president answered the obvious objection himself in writing. The issuance of these pardons should not be mistaken as an acknowledgement that any individual engaged in any wrongdoing. His answer was protection from investigations he called politically motivated, which leaves the question underneath it. If nobody did anything wrong, what is the pardon for? And why did it reach one member of a White House task force and not the doctor who co-ran it beside him? We are doing that episode next. Give the last word to the man himself. Over 7 years, he has answered more honestly than anyone speaking for him. His memoir, 2021, page 137. Knowing all of that now, no, I would not do it again. And in June of 2026, I should never have taken the board seat with Burisma. Then the name. He has answered that twice, 7 years apart. 2019, would he even have been asked onto that board if his last name were not Biden? Probably not in retrospect. And in July 2026, asked whether he got the job because of his proximity to his father. I think in part, yes, 100%. Asked whether the name did it, he has never once said no. And the pardon is the only document in this story that claims nothing at all. And one last thing, because it is where we go next. He was not the only one. Burisma's board also held a former president of Poland, an advisor to John Kerry's presidential campaign, and a Bush ambassador who had advised Mitt Romney. One of them was asked why a company like that wants a man like him. He said it was not only because he was good at the job, and then he finished the thought. Being Biden is not bad. It's a good name. Both American parties, one gas company. That story is its own episode, documenting the zeros in worldly heroes. Every document is in the description with archived copies. If we get something wrong, we correct it on the record. Dorian Russell, D. Booma.